Hi everybody, welcome back to Language Friendly Classroom Tips. My name is Candice Stone. I am the speech pathologist based here at SCCC. Right, we're going to continue today unpacking how we can assist children with specific needs within the classroom. Last week we spoke about Central Auditory Processing Disorder, or CAPD. We spoke about its causes and the fact that there are three main types of CAPD, which each come with their own specific needs that need to be addressed somewhat differently within the classroom in order to sufficiently enable your child to have access to language and literacy. We focused on an association deficit, these being your students who have classic information overload, basically meaning that the longer and more complex the information presented to them is, the more difficult it is for them to understand it. How does this impact on them? Well, it impacts on their understanding and recall of complex language, or complex grammatical language, because they're struggling to understand and recall complex language. They struggle to acquire the ability to use these complex sentences within their own language. It struggles on their ability to extract sufficient meaning from complex text, because obviously this is much more difficult than just listening to oral language, because now the child is having to combine their understanding of spoken language with their auditory decoding and visual memory skills required in order to read. And it also impacts on their ability to represent themselves on paper in terms of their use of complex grammatical sentences within essay writing, story writing, as well as when they're required to answer questions. These children will often sort of answer in one-word answers rather than a full sentence, despite you having reminded them many times. And we spoke about the fact that an association deficit can often result in a specific language impairment, particularly with regards to the use of grammar. We spoke about how to support these children in terms of the oral language that you use within the classroom, saying that you should use first and foremost short and simple sentences. If a repetition of an instruction or statement is required, repeat it in a short and simple manner. If you are aware that you might have used a more complex sentence or instruction to your students and a repetition is required, then try to rephrase it in a shorter and simpler manner. We spoke about the fact or the importance of coupling what you say with visual cues, and the best way to represent your visual cues is a mind map for the children, whereby they can clearly see the learning intention of the class as being your main idea, and then you've got your branches of your mind map being your sub-main ideas, and underneath each sub-main idea your keywords. And this helps a child with organizational difficulties, which is very much related to CAPD and specific language impairment, to understand and see how everything is linked together. When you are introducing your lesson, try to link the learning intention with a child's prior knowledge. This will give them some kind of association in terms of their own knowledge to better understand the new knowledge that is being introduced to them. And when an unknown word is identified, try to describe this unknown word to the child and provide synonyms for the child so that they're easily able to do web research using these synonyms about the topic. Okay, today we're going to focus on simple written language modifications to aid your classic information overload child. Firstly, try, just like with your oral language, try to keep your sentences short and simple, the written sentences short and simple. So here we've got an unmodified version. It says name and compare and contrast the structures and functions of the blood vessels within the body. A modified, more simple version would be name the blood vessels of the body, explain, and we put in brackets talk about in a full sentence, what is the same, in brackets similar, and what is different in terms of these various blood vessels. Here you can see the sentences are short and simple, and we've put in brackets what is required of the child, or the meanings of the words that we think that they might not know. And we've particularly explained what is required of them in terms of the actual question. So your question words like explain, discuss, highlight, list, these are often words that the children with your classic information overload will not understand. So by putting just by putting in brackets what these words mean, it will enable the child to properly be able to know what's required of them from the actual question. Okay, when you have got a text and it contains a lot of content-loaded information, try to break up your text so that the child can clearly see what is contained in terms of content within it. So at the top of your page, write down what the learning intention or the main idea or the topic of the content is. And then at the top of each paragraph, write down the main idea of the paragraph. Underline it and make it a heading so that the child can easily locate and find information. Try to, if you can, avoid giving notes or class notes that are within a paragraph form. A much better way is to list the important information in short and simple sentences using bullet points one underneath each other. Right, so here we've got an example. The content was about tornadoes. So we've put our learning intention or our main idea of what we're discussing at the top of the page. And then we've got underneath it, we've got our first paragraph main idea, what are tornadoes? We've got the paragraph, or we can rather list it in a bullet point form. Please note that in both the paragraph format as well as the listed format, the sentences are short and simple. Okay, then again you've got your second paragraph, how does a tornado funnel form? You've got your paragraph using short and simple sentences, or you've got the important information listed in point form, one underneath each other. Okay, next thing, after you've got your main idea of your lesson and you've got your sub-main ideas, the next thing is if you are using paragraph format or bullet point format, highlight the important keywords in bold so that the child can very easily see the important information. And when you're doing questions, the same goes for questions. Question words are always keywords because very often the child doesn't read these words carefully and then might answer a when question as a where question or a who question as a where question. Highlight these important keywords so that the child can see very clearly what is required of them. So here we've got an example. A cell, so that's your keyword, is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. And you can see that it's been highlighted nicely for you, for the students, so that they can see the important information. Okay, the next thing is if you are aware that there are unfamiliar words to the student that they might not understand, provide a description for this word in brackets right next to the unknown word. Don't provide a glossary because the use of a glossary at the bottom of a page requires organizational skills, and this might be difficult for your child with central auditory processing disorder or some kind of specific language impairment. So put the meaning of the unknown word in brackets right next to the word, and this goes the same for your question words, your words like explain, discuss, annotate, describe. Okay, so here in example 1, we've got, you can see very clearly that the keywords have been highlighted, and then because we thought maybe the student wouldn't understand the word smaller structural and functional unit, we've put in brackets what that means. In example 2, you've got the unmodified sentence, maybe this is from English, saying identify the figure of speech in line 18 and comment on its effectiveness. That is a very, very difficult sentence for a child with a language impairment or an auditory processing disorder to understand what is required of them. So a modified version, you can see again, we've used our keywords in bold, we've used our question words in bold, and we've used short, simple sentences, and we've put in brackets meanings of words that we think the child wouldn't understand. So here you've got name the figure of speech in line 18, describe or tell us about the two items that are being compared. What does this imply, in brackets, make you think about the items? Alright, that comes to an end of our written language modifications for today. Thanks everyone for listening. Take care. Bye.